Hello everyone and welcome back to Timberborn. This is a season finale on the Haunted Hollow series. In today's episode we're going to focus on a few things. The most important one is that we're going to get the wonder constructed. We still have a ways to go in getting all the science that we need to unlock it, but we have been adding in some number crunchers in recent episodes. So at this point it's just a waiting game for getting that extra science and also building up our stockpile of materials that we need to construct the wonder. We also set up an area that we can now get the wonder placed down. Since this is a massive building, it's a 7x7, but we can fit it here no problem. And while we're waiting for us to get enough science, we can focus on some other things first. In the last episode, we placed down a bucket of trees, and that's helped our wood shortage a bit. We are still a little bit short on wood, but it's much better than we were at the last episode. And we still have some spots that we can continue to plant some more trees. And then something else I noticed is I don't think that we are actually short on food. But we only have 4 crops that we actually have any food of, so we can probably do a little bit of rearranging. We are completely maxed out on kohlrabi, and then we also have some kohlrabi that's just sitting around, so we could probably replace some with some of the rations that we need. We can start with eggplants over here, and then I did mention in the last episode that we are completely maxed out on our warehouse, and it is full of algae. It seems like we're just not processing it quite fast enough. And if we take a look in our main processing area, eventually we're going to find one of the food processors, and this seems like a building that'd be nice to switch to bots. It does take 750 science, which is not too much, so we can switch that, and that also means we can switch some of the other food processors to bots. And then we were running short on canola oil. We have both of these oil presses with beavers just sitting around, and we are in the process of planting some more canola seed. It seems like we're running just a little bit short on dirt, but before we check in on that, let's place down a few more sets of crops and get that canola covering as much as we can. We do have 4 iron bots working in the dirt excavator. We don't have it prioritized by haulers, so that might be helpful to do. And unfortunately, it seems like the canola oil is the linchpin in a lot of these recipes, but there's not a whole lot we can do. We have placed down as much extra as we can. Our water's also not going up quite as fast as I would like, so we might want to get a few more water pumpers placed down here. We do have some extra storage for the beavers, but maybe we even duplicate a couple of these. That way there's even more storage for them to fill up while they're close enough. In total, we have 5 more that we're working on. We have these 2 right here, and then we added these 3. We can fit them into some pretty tight spaces, but we're taking advantage of as much space as we can. We could always switch some of these water pumpers to be bots since we have 3 unemployed bots at the moment. And since they're going to be working around the clock, we can switch the water pumps that are closest to these storages to be bots. But we also need to think about adding in some chargers and then maybe some food stations for the workers over here. Unfortunately, I don't think we have a power network that extends anywhere close to here, so over here might be their best bet. And we still are running a bit short on berries, but we added in some green space where we can add some more berries in. And it looks like at this point we actually have several hydroponic gardens that we have not cleared all the algae out of, so we can probably pause at least a couple of them since we are still maxed out on algae. No use putting extra water into here when we can't produce any algae. And then we should probably add a few more chargers over here since we have some beavers working in the dirt excavator and then also these tapper shacks. And conveniently we have some space right on top of these tubes. And thankfully everything we need in order to construct these charging stations does not require wood. I mean, the planks require wood and the gears do, but we are doing great on both of those. Since we are doing good on power, we're going to start pausing some of these steam engines because those are all using wood and we are still experiencing a bit of a wood shortage. And we have a little bit of extra canola seeds, not too much, but it seems like we actually do have some extra rations at this point. So we're slowly increasing our canola stores. And it looks like we're getting pretty close to maxing out our treated planks, and we do not want to slow down that production, so we're going to add in a few more of these piles. So I was thinking we were going to go up in science a bit faster. We're only at 7,000. So we're going to try and add in a couple more number crunchers. Unfortunately, we're running a little bit short on space. If we add in just a few platforms, then we get a lot of extra space that we can utilize. And then we can start placing down some extra number crunchers. Now we have 3 additional number crunchers. And as soon as we get these last few power shafts connected in, then we'll get an additional 30 science per hour. And that'll translate to 600 to 700 additional science per day. So that's going to speed the process up of getting the Earth Repopulator unlocked. And in terms of materials, we have over 2,000 metal blocks. We're pretty close to getting 1,500 gears. And then we're also going up on treated planks. In terms of the materials that we need in order to launch the wonder, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure that we need 500 berries and then also 500 extract. Extract is looking fine. We can probably add in some more storage, but we are not anywhere near close to getting enough berries. We do have some green space over here. We need to make sure that this won't be impacted by any bad tides. And then we're going to also make this a self-irrigating one. So as long as you get a sluice in here that closes up when a bad tide hits, then we'll have this little 3x3 grid that should be good enough. So we have an entire section that is going to be planted with blueberries, but this probably won't even be enough because the blueberries take 12 days to grow up and then another 12 days to produce just 3 blueberries. And then the blueberries are still being used in the breeding pods, so it's not like all these blueberries are just immediately going to the Wonder. Although we do have 39 unemployed beavers, it's probably worth pausing a few more of those breeding pods. We do also have quite a bit of green space over here. We also have some trees that we could chop down. It's going to take a little bit for us to get over there, but in the long run I think it's going to be worth it. And we finally have a few lumberjack flags over here. They are going to get us some additional wood, and that is going to be immediately utilized. And then we can also get a forester constructed. We'll high prioritize this and then make sure that we have some blueberries planted over here. Now it's not looking good that all these trees are dead, which means that the contamination will spread and it will probably kill all of them. So we'll need to think about how we want to deal with that, because otherwise these blueberries will not survive. And since we are so desperately short on wood, we are going to make our way across and start chopping down some of these dead oak trees. And it's not terribly close to our district center, it's not too far away. But at this point, getting any lumberjack flags we can set up that actually produce some wood is definitely something that we want to invest in. Taking a bit of a step back, we are definitely experiencing a wood shortage, but overall it seems like we have a lot of trees planted. We have our original forest that extends underneath here, and then we go over to this section, and then we have an additional forest up here, and then if we go up in elevation a bit, we also have some more trees on this side of the map, and then we have another forest section. This one is for getting all the pine resin. And then in the last episode we added in these 2 new forests. So it seems like we don't have a wood shortage for lack of trying. Considering all the trees that we have, I'm still shocked that we have no wood. We don't have that many steam engines running, we have a few of them. I didn't really want to pause any more steam engines, but since we're so short on wood it might be worth it. We could take a look at some other buildings and see if we need to pause any of them. Looks like we're actually maxed out on gears, so we can pause all these gear workshops. We are still maxed out on metal blocks, so we can pause some of these additional smelters. And then we are maxed out on explosives, so we can pause this explosives factory. And it is drought time. It is only 6 days long, so that's a good thing. And then we can take a look at how our power is doing. We're only producing about half of the power that we need. And I'm also seeing that these beavers have cleared out pretty much all the trees that they can reach. So we can remove these lumberjack flags, and then we can add one more in to get the last few logs. We'll continue planting blueberry bushes along the backside. And we just hit 20,000 science, which means that we can unlock the earth repopulator. And this time it is well within range of all the buildings, specifically all of the barracks. I made a little bit of a blunder in the most recent live stream that was uploaded, where the final wonder that I placed didn't quite touch all the houses. But now we can start dumping all of our resources into this. We have plenty of gears, we're still short on treated planks, and then we have enough metal blocks. We'll probably need to turn these smelters on after the drought ends, and then same for these gear workshops. We can also pause some of these number crunchers now that we don't need to have quite as much science, and then also reduce our power demand. And there is a frenzy of activity at the earth repopulator. They've put in just over a quarter of the materials that we need, but we're only 4% of the way through constructing it. Thankfully we have a bucket of workers that can work on that, although we should probably lower this on the priority list just a little bit, because if we want to work on literally anything else, we'll need to either bump it up to a higher priority, or it just straight up won't get constructed. So this makes it so that if the beavers or bots need to work on anything, they can hop onto this. And even during the evening, our power demand was a little bit too high, so now we're completely out of power from the gravity batteries, and we are relying solely on the water wheel power. Although we do have a good amount of logs now, so we can unpause some of these steam engines, and that additional power gets us almost close to what we need. We're only about 2,000 HP short, which is not honestly that bad. And just like that, we have 1,500 wood, so we have had a major bounce back. It seems like the wood shortage was really just from constructing so many buildings over here, and all those were just sucking up our wood supply. We can start filling in these irrigation barriers all along the border of the river, and then we have some beavers who are just sitting around waiting for all these blueberries to grow up and then start producing some fruit. We are starting to have some more bots who are a little bit short on power. That probably has something to do with the slightly larger charge times. This is only running at about 75% efficiency. Not quite all of these charging stations are being utilized, so I don't think we have too many bots for our charging network at the moment. And the drought is over, we are beginning cycle 20, and I'm hoping this will be the cycle that we can finish constructing the earth repopulator. I don't think we'll be able to fill it, unfortunately, since we are waiting on the blueberries to grow up. And it seems like we have still another 12 days until those will produce berries, and then that'll happen after another 1 or 2 more days. But the water has returned, and it is going to be charging our power network back up. And you can see our gravity batteries are charging back up now. We're doing great on water, and we are pumping pretty much every drop we can out of it. In fact, we're pumping so much water we might not have a whole lot that comes through here. It does look like it's slowly filling up, but it's not going up that fast. And nighttime is probably going a little bit faster since we do have some beavers still working here. But we do have some bots who are unemployed, so we can try tossing those into the water pumpers. This reminds me a little bit of the video that I did, Can You Pump a River Dry, where we successfully pumped all the water out of a river. And this is getting pretty close to that. We have some pine resin at the back of this forest. It does not look like it's being picked, so I think it's worth adding in another tapper shack at the backside. We'll just need to cross the river and then add in a third tapper shack. And since we are still pretty short on pine resin, this will be quite helpful for getting our treated plank stores up. Looks like we have about 650 at the moment. And then if we take a look at the earth repopulator, we still need about 700 more treated planks. Like I mentioned earlier, we can turn some of these gear workshops back on since we are starting to run a little bit short now. And at this point, if you want to get the beavers' well-being up even more, we can probably start reducing some of the working hours because almost every job has bots in it now. And then we can also take a look at their well-being points. We're still a little bit short on mangrove fruits and corn rations. I don't really plan to address the mangrove fruits since that requires very specific conditions to grow. But then just about everything else looks like we're doing good other than the earth repopulator. Although we're massively missing all the fun stuff. We could get some more scratches, which are pretty easy. And then it seems like we have all these that we have not unlocked yet. Oh my gosh, we have a whopping 21 homeless beavers. I'm going to need to pause even more of these breeding pods. And it does look like we have quite a few. We can go with these two first. And then there's even more underneath here. Let's go with another 3. And then we do have space for one more barracks, and then all we'll need to do is add in a path to connect it in. So that'll take care of 16 of these beavers, and we can add in 2 more scratchers as well. So we can get the wind tunnel unlocked for 700 science, and then we almost have enough space. We just need to place down a few platforms. Now it looks like that should fit in here. The next thing will be to make sure that we have a power connection. We go along here, then they'll all get connected in. We'll have this one placed in last, although we might be able to place it from the tunnel, so I think we can actually add that in without worrying about blocking the other power shafts. We do need to still actually get into it, so we need to remove this. I did not place it the right direction. We'll have to collect all those resources back. And then we can just start adding in a massive amount of detailers. It's all going to be at this one central location, which is thankfully pretty close to these houses since we had the tube stations that go up here. And if we need, we can add some more overhangs and then get a few more of them placed down. And the beaver's well-being is already going up. It's up to 52. And I suspect that's going to go up even more over the next few days. And now we are just about maxed out on logs. We have over 3,000 in total, and we're starting to have some trees that are growing up and are not being chopped down. So over the course of one wet season, we can go from a massive wood shortage to being completely maxed out on logs. And on the bright side, we do have an additional amount of berries now. We have 118. That is definitely partly in due because we paused all of those breeding pods. Our new berry farm has not produced any berries yet. Seems like they're about a quarter of the way, maybe a little bit farther for producing berries. But this section alone should be able to produce enough berries in order for us to get the 500 we need, especially considering we already have a surplus at the moment. And now at this point we're just waiting on all the beavers to finish constructing this, since we have all the resources placed in the earth repopulator. And then we have a good amount of extract. We have over 1,000, and then we'll just have to wait for the berries to grow up. And they have finished constructing the earth repopulator. Oh my gosh, did they switch it to treated planks? I thought it took extract. Well, good thing we have a bunch of treated planks. Seems like those are probably one of the most important resources in this game. Berries we're doing fine. We have 120. We've already put 100 in here. We are a little bit over halfway to having all these berries grow up. So we can make sure all these gatherer flags are prioritized by haulers. And then we can switch both of these other gatherer flags to bots. And unfortunately, I forgot the motivatorium needs to be on the ground. So let's remove all of these and place some dirt blocks down instead. I think that this should be connected to the power system since it's adjacent to these gear workshops. It looks like about 70% of the beavers are experiencing the detailer and scratcher, which means we need to add a few more. Thankfully, we have some space right around this fun activity area. And now one of the last things to unlock is the mud bath. This one does require power, so we can start by placing maybe a couple right here. And now we're going to have the ultimate mud bath area for the beavers. We have 7 that are going to be placed down. We also have a good amount of dirt, so the haulers should be able to fill all these up with dirt soon. And then hopefully we don't trap any beavers. And then once they finish constructing all this, we can wait a few days and see how the beavers' well-being pans out. Right now we're at 58 well-being points. And then if we look at the earth repopulator, We are out of treated planks at the moment. We're still a little over 100 short, and then we have about 200 more berries that we need. Unfortunately, I dumped a bunch of treated planks into these mud baths, and these also require treated planks. So let's pause a couple of these for now. That way we can make sure that all the treated planks go into this earth repopulator. And oh my goodness, we have all these trees. They're all marked to be chopped down, but we're just doing so great on wood that we don't even need them. So in hindsight, it probably would have been worth it to instead have some trees that grew up faster. Maybe some pine trees, since those only took 12 days instead of 30. But you live and you learn. In the next series, I'm hoping to place down some trees even earlier. And that series is going to be starting up right after Timberborn 1.0 launches, which is currently March 12th. So be sure to stick around for that. We have just about all the treated planks that we need, so we can unpause these last 2 mud baths. And at this point, it's just these blueberry bushes that we're waiting on. They are getting pretty darn close, less than 2 days before some of them start to produce some berries. And we have these bots on standby. And it looks like we trapped a bot. Let's remove these stairs real quick, and that should let him get out of there. I don't think he's there anymore. So we'll add the stairs back in, and then that'll get sorted pretty quickly. On the bright side, we got most of the way with filling the earth repopulator with berries, simply by reducing how many breeding pods we had turned on. But the last 120 or so are going to be coming from this blueberry farm, and any minute now they're going to be producing some berries. We have all these prioritized by haulers, and then we also have these small warehouses that the haulers are going to be prioritizing. So if we give it just a couple more days, I think this should be maxed out, and then we can launch it. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be the 9th map that I've completed a wonder on, and we'll see how all the irrigation barriers hold up to the bad water. So far there's only a few trees over here. These ones are not doing too good. Well, is that a water thing or a bad water thing? If we go down, we can see that it doesn't look like there's any contamination spreading over here. It's actually because we don't have any water coming around this section. We just need to put a path in, and then they should be able to place down some more tunnels. Although it does look like the contamination is spreading. Ooh, it's getting over here as well because of this. Let's pause it real quick. Let's remove this path and then have all the beavers flee from this area. And then we can remove this platform and then place down a final dirt block and get an irrigation barrier placed on top of it. So now that irrigation barrier is down, the contamination effect should be receding. In fact, you can see that that is the case. As long as you remove the stairs, then we can connect everything back in. Ooh, but we do also have some of the blueberries that are dying. And I think I see why we missed one irrigation barrier. So we can add that one in, make sure we super high prioritize it. And then we also have some that are not making it over here. Could this one possibly make it work? Either way, we have over 200 berries, so I'm guessing that we are maxed out in the earth repopulator. And it looks like we are ready, so we can give this a launch. And the well-being is up quite a bit now. We can see the beavers are being launched, and that is another wonder completed. About 400 days had passed, and then we have all the stats down here. 75,000 trees cut is quite a bit, but now we have a flexible start on this map. I still have yet to actually use the flexible start, but maybe that's something we do in a future Let's Play. And we got the well-being all the way up to 73. We still have about 7,000 science. Water and food are looking fantastic. All our resources are looking good. And that is where we're going to wrap up today's episode and this series. In the end, we made a last push to get the well-being up for the beavers, and they're getting to enjoy it now. As I mentioned, Timberborn 1.0 will be coming out on March 12th. Depending on how many new maps they release, that'll probably dictate what we go for the next Let's Play. I'm hoping there's at least one, and that will probably be the map that we play through on the next Let's Play. So if you have any ideas on what I should do for that Let's Play, leave it in the comments down below. But we'll also take a look if there's any new features that they release in Timberborn 1.0. So if you enjoyed this series, please leave a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out some of the live streams that we do on Saturdays. They're a ton of fun, and I get to connect with all of you guys, so be sure to check it out. And with that, we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.